The UK quietly sends 99 massive artillery pieces to Ukraine. Listen, some military stories break with a press conference, some break with a leak, and then there are stories that break because a very patient British citizen filed a Freedom of Information request, waited half a presidential term, and eventually received a PDF that basically said, "All right, you guys, every AS-90 howitzer we add now belongs to Ukraine." I'm so sorry, I'll never do that accent again. Well, too late, I just lost all of my UK subscribers. I still have the French though. Anyways, this is how the world learned that the United Kingdom quietly transferred every single active AS-90 self-propelled howitzer to Ukraine. All 99 of them, the entire remaining fleet. Ukraine's got 99 problems, but finding Russians to shell ain't one. Hey friends, Wes O'Donnell here, veteran of the Army and of the Air Force, and today we're talking about how the AS-90 actually fights, and what it means for Ukraine's artillery war against Russia. This story begins not on a battlefield, but in an office. Somewhere inside the UK Ministry of Defense, a clerk approved a FOIA response and sent it out the door, probably not realizing the geopolitical significance of what was inside. The document confirmed that the UK transferred all remaining AS-90s in British service to Ukraine. It also acknowledged that Britain sent 28 M109 howitzers and 54 L119 towed guns. Together, these transfers placed the United Kingdom near the top of Ukraine's artillery donors. But the headline is unmistakable. London officially ended the AS-90 era and handed the entire active fleet to Kyiv. That is strategic language with a 155mm accent. To appreciate what Ukraine just gained, we have to rewind to the late 1980s. I think I saw Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in theaters in 1989. Never mind. The British Army needed something tougher, something faster and meaner than the M109 workhorse that it relied on since the 1960s. Vickers Defense Systems, now I think BAE, answered the call with the AS-90, a 45-ton tracked howitzer that drives like an armored fighting vehicle and hits like a collapsing star. It can move at about 55 kilometers per hour. Its standard range is roughly 25 kilometers. With a longer 52 caliber gun and base bleed ammunition, the AS-90 can push beyond 30 kilometers. Now, base bleed ammunition doesn't work exactly like a rocket booster. Instead, it reduces the turbulent air behind the shell by releasing gas into the low-pressure wake. This cuts down on drag and it extends the range significantly. Now, the AS-90 carries a 5-person crew and can transition from travel to firing in under a minute. For Ukraine, that speed is survival. The faster you fire and relocate, the less like you are to be deleted by Russian counter-battery fire. The AS-90 was built for harsh climates, for quick action, and for high-tempo operations. It was built for exactly the kind of artillery war Ukraine is fighting. The AS-90 also has a party trick that Russian artillery crews absolutely hate. It can fire 3 shells on different trajectories so that they all land on the target at the same moment. This tactic is called multiple round simultaneous impact, or MRSI. We've talked about that before on this channel. It makes one howitzer look like an entire battery, and because all 3 rounds hit at once, there is no time for Russian counter-battery radars to triangulate the firing position. Before Russian gunners can process what happened, the AS-90 has already moved. Britain was already in the process of replacing the AS-90s with the Archer system, a Swedish-designed, of course it's Sweden, howitzer built for the next era of artillery combat. It shoots faster, and it automates more of the crew workload. Once Archer began arriving, the AS-90s were pushed toward retirement. They were going to be mothballed, scrapped, or sold off, but London chose a 4th option: send them to Ukraine where they could finish their service life in the fight they were built for. The FOIA documents confirm what analysts had suspected since mid-1924. Every active AS-90 crossed the channel and entered Ukrainian service. Some of the retired AS-90 hulls were shipped also, almost certainly to be stripped for parts. Ukraine has mastered this practice. They have rebuilt NATO artillery with 3D printing, field machining, improvised parts, and a level of inventive stubbornness that makes old retired Cold War engineers point at the screen like that Leonardo meme. Ukraine operates in both the Soviet and the NATO artillery worlds. On the Soviet side, they still use systems like the 2S-3 Akatsiya and the 2S-19 Mista, reliable, battle-proven, and well understood. On the Western side, they now field the M777s, the French Caesars, the German PZH-2000s, and a growing family of NATO 155mm system. The AS-90 fits snugly in the middle of that ecosystem. It's faster than the Mista, more durable and less temperamental than the PZH-2000, significantly easier to maintain than the Caesar in muddy terrain, sorry France, and fully compatible with NATO ammunition. It was designed to survive winter, mud, and grit, and all the nasty things that the UK experiences in their field winters, and soldiers who occasionally swear at hydraulic systems. In short, the AS-90 is a blue-collar NATO gun. It shows up, it works long hours, it refuses to quit, and it does not need a climate-controlled hangar to stay operational. Now, Russia fields three broad categories of artillery. Their old but reliable systems include the 2S-3 and the 2S-19, just like Ukraine, which form the backbone of their fires doctrine. Their upgraded systems feature improved barrels and digital fire control, but remain limited in number. And then there's the Howitzers SV, which looks like the future on paper, but exists in Russia in quantities you can count on two hands. When both sides use extended range shells, range becomes less decisive because the top systems perform similarly. The real edge comes from fire control networks, drones feeding targeting data, sensor fusion, shoot and scoot speed, survivability, and ammunition logistics. Ukraine's edge lies in precision guidance, rapid sensor-to-shooter loops, and integration with Western fire control systems. Russia's edge lies in sheer volume. They have more barrels and massive Soviet-era ammunition stockpiles. The AS-90 gives Ukraine something it needs: tempo. It can fire quickly, it can relocate, and integrate seamlessly into drone-fed targeting cycle. But a howitzer is only as good as the supply chain behind it. The AS-90 needs barrels replaced, it needs tracks maintained, and ammunition delivered under threat, electronic systems checked, and it needs crews rotated before fatigue sets in. The fire control system requires upkeep, and the mechanical systems need constant attention. Now, Ukraine excels at this. They have kept NATO systems like Caesars and M777s alive long past what Western planners expected. The AS-90s, being less delicate than the PZH-2000 and less maintenance intensive than some Western guns, will thrive under Ukrainian conditions, which says that this transfer is not just about hardware, it's about doctrine. Russia's artillery doctrine is rooted in massed fire, in saturation, and in suppression. Western doctrine is built around precision, and speed and coordinated sensor networks, and high-tempo maneuver. By sending the AS-90, the UK is accelerating Ukraine's transition more toward a NATO-style artillery force. Instead of flattening a tree line for half an hour, Ukraine can hit a command post in half a minute. Instead of waiting for counter-battery radars, Ukraine can shoot and move before Russian systems even compute where the gun was. Now, this shift from attrition by volume to attrition by precision is underway right now, and the AS-90 reinforces that evolution. The transfer of the entire AS-90 fleet is a message to the Kremlin. It says that Ukraine is not going to run out of artillery. It says NATO logistics now run deep into Ukraine's artillery ecosystem. And it says Western calibers and Western doctrine are replacing Soviet models. Oh, and it also says that while Russia throws hundreds of thousands of bodies at a small town in the east and still struggles to take it, Ukraine is busy building what will soon be the most powerful offensive force in Europe, rivaling Poland, in my opinion. If you think I'm exaggerating, just wait till you see what Ukraine does in 2026. Russia can replace individual guns. It cannot replace the systemic advantage of Western supply chains. The FOIA release may have arrived quietly, but its implications echo across the battlefield. Britain did not just donate a handful of howitzers, it donated an entire artillery legacy. 99 AS-90s, dozens of M109s, over 50 L119s, plus spare holes to strip for parts. This ain't symbolic, folks. This is heavy metal diplomacy. It is battlefield weight. It is resilience. It is tempo. And it is a signal that as long as Ukraine is fighting for survival, it will not fight alone. That's it for today, my friends. Subscribing is the best free way to support this channel and ensures that I have the ability to keep making videos like this. And look, the Russians are really good at disinformation and misinformation. And by subscribing to channels like mine and other creators that you follow, it helps us push back against the relentless Russian disinformation sphere. So thank you in advance. Consider hitting the button. And as always, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Crimea is Ukraine.